All right, so look, there's nothing we could do about it. We're gonna be locked in the house or in the wherever you want to lock yourself up in for 30, yeah, for 30 days or more. Depends who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we could either take this time and come out of this better, okay, and take this time. Everybody should be reading books. Everybody should be watching some self-help videos. Everybody should be doing stuff that makes them better. We all know what, I have a list of books. I mean, you're probably the only guy who's probably gone through all your list of books already, but I have a list of books that I want to read, right? I have a list of stuff that I want to get better at, right? So I am focusing my time on coming out of this better. There's things with the company that I've never been able to sit down here. Shit, I might even clean the office. Like my office, there's a bunch of stuff around here that I wanna get rid of. I might even take advantage of that, But what things can we do? So the topic today is, what can we do to become better at what we do in life? Okay, because obviously this is a real estate heavy podcast, let's say.
Sure.
Okay, but what can we do in life, all right, to make us better through this time? All right, so we're also going to talk about different deal killers. Okay, so what deal killers are the most prominent deal killers? What do we got? We got appraisal,
inspection, mortgages, title,
right?
And then the biggest deal killer of them all, other agents.
Right? So we're going to talk about that. And by the way, the reason why this podcast works with both of those things together is because let's talk about one. Let's talk about the realtors.
Sure. Other agents.
Let's hit the worst one first.
Sure.
All right. So I always tell my realtors, look, guys, I don't want to bullshit you. There's good news and bad news. All right. The realtors in this business are going to be unprofessional. Anybody could get their real estate license. Anybody.
Fog up a mirror, have a pulse.
Anybody. The people that I have seen, I can't tell you how many times I look at this person. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe this fucking person actually passed that, because I had a hard time passing it. I'm one of those people that probably shouldn't have it. You know what I mean? Intelligence wise. So if I failed it 6 times, right? How many times? Oh, I had a buddy of mine that went to, he had a degree and he was a college guy, university guy, had a degree in criminal justice, master's in criminal justice. Failed that shit 20 something times.
Whoa,
20. He just got in his own head is what happened after like number 5, it was like downhill from there, right? So, but the people that get their license in this business, there's a lot of people that shouldn't have it. Okay, so that's the bad news, but it's also the good news. Why is it the good news? Because that's your competition.
Absolutely.
No,
it's easy. I mean, this kind of bodes well with the topic of the class, which is like of the podcast, which is like how to use this time well. This is right here. Something like this, taking on a subject like this, is using that time well. You're sitting there trying to figure out whether you should get another Twinkie or another one little Hostess cupcakes right now on your couch, trying to make sure you caught up on all the important stuff and like the most recent episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians,
or just watching the news to scare the shit out of you all day.
Absolutely. Why can't we be taking advantage of this time to take and catch up on all those things? Cleaning the office. I mean, look, a clean workspace helps you to function better.
Is my office dirty?
No, I never thought so.
All right, thanks, man.
No, a clean desk, dude. I mean, just like me, a clean workspace. You know, the cleaner you keep things, the more effectively a piece of equipment can run. And you yourself are your most critical piece of business equipment.
Yeah.
If you don't keep yourself in a position, if you don't set yourself up to succeed well, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And so taking advantage of this time to really get in there and say, hey, look, what's wrong with my business? What are the things that I've been putting off? You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't like to drop the big hammer right away. What does your email inbox look like?
Oof. Man, why you got to go there, man? I'm going to tell you right now. I see them all, right? But let me defend myself here. I'm going to tell you 5,358 unread emails. Now, guys, I read I know it sounds crazy, but I read every single email. These are ones that I know are either spam or some shit I already read or stuff that I really don't have to look at until I have to look at. Like, for example, like the leads that come in through the office. I want to see them, but I don't have to see them. Right? So I'm defending myself a little bit. No, but what's yours at 0?
Mine right now, because I cleared it out about an hour ago, is 21.
Wow. I'm a little disappointed in you, but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No,
I expect you to be at 0.
there was only one from yesterday, and there
All right,
20 from today.
right. So
Yeah,
yeah, stuff like that. But look, let's go step by step, right?
Sure.
Let's we could almost join this instead of it's being part 1, which is what to do with this business. Let's go step by step on the deal killers, and let's talk about how to improve yourself on these deal killers during this time. So first and foremost, realtors. All right, here's the thing that, man, I tell my agents all the time, guys, I was horrendous at school. All right. I was horrendous at taking tests. I graduated high school with a 1.5 grade point average the year before they switched it to a 2.0. All right. So if they switched it to a 2.0 while I was already there, no bullshit, it would have added a couple more years to my stay, right, in high school. And I'm zero kidding. I just did not like school. I did not like what I was doing there, right? But that being said, always knew I wanted to be in real estate since high school. When I got out of there, my first book, my second book, the first book, I was a basketball guy, so I read the Magic Johnson book. But the second book I read, and every other book I've read, I've never read a novel. I've never read anything fiction. Everything's been to get myself better. All right. So how do we get ourselves better to deal with the most difficult person possible? A person who is going to they have a listing, you have a buyer, they're going to make you suffer through it.
Mhm.
Okay. I tell you what, there's one book, and I'm going to just bring it out there right now. Whoever's listening to this, all 3 people that are listening to this, all right, if you guys go out there, if you want to improve your real estate business immediately, game changer. If I had one book that I would have to read, and if they would tell me, forget about all those hundreds of books that you've read, read one, it would bite. No, not even a close second, would be How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Sure.
Okay. By the way, since it meant everything to me, but you that have read as many books as you have, is that in your top 10 even?
It's up there.
Top 10?
I would say it's probably
Eliminating fiction and all that stuff.
all right. Yeah.
Self-help and just
Yeah, no, I mean, it really was the granddaddy of them all when it comes to the idea of self-help, and it really takes into account the fact that to get anything done, there's other people involved.
always.
And it's something our society doesn't do particularly well now. I remember, again, I was just talking to you earlier about this today in the office. My father was almost 50 years old when I was born.
Yeah.
So he was born in 1930, and they thought differently back then. When I would go to the movie theater with him, the first thing as a little kid you run up, you put your hands in the glass, and you look at the candy, right? Because you want the candy. My father would grab my hand and say, "No, you don't do that. If you touch the glass, somebody's going to have to clean it." He was always thinking about the other. You never walk out of a door and just let it go behind you. You look to make sure you're not dropping it on somebody.
Interesting.
You think about other people. And so, recognizing that other agent maybe is having a bad day on the other end of that line, and that you can either add to that or take away from that. That other agent is in a lot of ways a gatekeeper to what you want to get done. And so if your life can be built around the idea of taking and making other people's lives better, and in the process getting done what you need to have done,
Yeah.
that seems like a much better life than the very selfish lives that we tend to live.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what that book really kind of crystallized for me.
Yeah. It to me, and by the way, I have to give all credit to my dad here. I've called him. He never asked me to do this, but he was after me and after me and after me. It just sounded boring to me. The title was like How to Win Friends. I mean, I've never had a problem making friends. You know what I'm saying? What I missed was the influencing people.
That's
right?
it.
Like I just read the beginning of the first, and I'm like, what the hell do I need this for? Man, I have called him like maybe 20 times to thank him for. I thanked him more for that than I thanked him for being a great father. Let's put it that way. And he was a great father. So it's one of those things that I would have hung up a phone call and I would have been like, holy shit, How to Win Friends and Influence People, saved my ass again.
Yep.
Because I was able to understand there's this person is in between me and success, right? I mean, listen, and there was one deal in particular, man, that always pops up in my head. And by the way, it deals with one of the other things, was the deal killers, which is the appraisals, right? So people always think that once the appraisal number comes in, that's what it is, right? Dude, so it was a sister, I don't want to name names, but it was a sister of a very famous baseball player that was a realtor at another office, but I had a mortgage company back then. So She was sending us the loan on that deal, right? The appraisal, it was so complicated because this house had marble imported from like Italy. The fountain was imported from I don't know what. It was such a weird residential property that we had to get
Appraisal, yeah.
a commercial appraisal on it, right? Which right off the bat, it was crazy, right? It was a unique situation that I didn't even know that was possible back then, right? So the market was already kind of going to shit. Things were starting to get weird. It wasn't completely dead, but it was. So I've always, I had the residential mortgage company, but I've always lent on commercial real estate. It's always something that I really liked. So they called me on it because it was really a commercial kind of loan. It was kind of weird, right? So, man, that appraisal. First of all, when I called the guy, right off the bat, he put his guard. Dude, I've been doing this 25 years, right? Like, fuck you if you think you're gonna convince me of anything, right? So the appraisal came back about $1 million short,
Oh wow.
right? So anybody, if I tell you what, if it wasn't for that, my life depended on it at that particular moment, I would have been like, dude, I'm not even gonna do it. This is crazy. Like, why am I even gonna call? But I had to call. I had to make that phone call. I would tell you right now that I was able to get the deal done. I was able to bring him to where we needed. Guys, there's no way on this planet that I would be able to convince somebody of this. It was both sides. I kind of both sides were able to kind of adjust and everything, but I was able to get that deal done, and it was specifically 100% because of how to win friends and influence people. I had to get a guy who thought he knew it all and probably did know it all in that business, right? From somebody who had never done a commercial / residential imported shit type appraisal, and I had no business in there, but I had to dig in, and it was all human. Even though there's numbers involved, there's always humanity in every deal, right? There's always the human level, the human personalities, emotions, egos, right? Like, one of the things about how to win friends and influence people is, dude, if that guy thinks he's the man, why are you convincing him he's not the man?
Let him be the man.
Make him more the man.
Sure.
Right? There's always the famous uncle or cousin that had his real estate license 30 years ago that knows more than everybody else, right? There's always that guy. So when you go into the house or you go into the property or whatever, and you're dealing with that uncle that knows everything, you either make friends with that uncle real quick and make him think that he's even better than what he thinks he is. Remember, he already thinks he's the best in the world. No, you want him, he's the best in the galaxy. So you walk in there, and every time he says some stupid shit, you're going to be like, this guy's good.
Man,
Hey,
he's solid.
Look at
this
where'd
guy.
you guys get this guy, man? Damn, hey, dude, why don't you get into the business, man? Why don't you get really into the business?
Would you mentor me?
right. Or just as simple as this, guys. This could be a $100,000 deal. It could be $1 million. It could be $100 million deal. Same dynamic, right? So that's why I'm saying numbers matter, but the dynamics matter more than anything else. There's always going to be that guy. When you deal with athletes, by the way, I have removed myself from working with athletes. I have a lot of athlete contacts and everything. I refuse to work with an athlete ever again in my life, right? Why? Because you're dealing with somebody who is already entitled. Then you get the financial advisor calling you, and that guy wants nothing to do with you, okay? But again, I was able to get some of these deals done because you're dealing with the financial advisor that knows it all, and then the athlete who gets it all, and you start working those deals. But, back to that deal. So back to the book, actually. That book prepares you on getting that person there, that person in that house, and saying, you either leave there, they loving you, right? Or the uncle loving you, or the uncle saying, dude, this guy's an asshole. There's no way you're going to get that guy. So if you tell the guy, hey, oh, you know everything. Oh, you're the man. Hey, this guy's good. He's going to walk out and go, I really like this guy.
Something about him.
Something about it.
I don't know what it is. It
Right.
seems to be really professional.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, something is that you've been playing to what he wants, right? So do the facts matter? Or if you being the best realtor at comparables, okay? Let's say it's a comparable situation, okay? Let's say your comparables are right on the money, but this guy says they're not, okay? Let's say the contract, let's say you're the best at contracts. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of one of the things that realtors, if I had to say, one of the biggest mistakes is that they think that real estate is learning the MLS, learning the contracts, learning the comparables, learning the finance. And it is, okay. But none of that matters. None of that starts ticking and none of that gets up and running if you're not good at convincing people and making them understand it, you know?
If you're not good at reading people and reading the room and recognizing the human element that goes into there, because the reality of what you're talking about is the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And the appraiser can give you the benefit of the doubt, or he cannot.
Yeah.
And that could be a $30,000-$40,000 swing, easy.
Yeah.
This house is a little nicer than that house, and so there is that human element. And so getting to that place where you recognize that this is not just a real estate business, it's a people business. A great lister is someone that goes in and reads the room well, reads the people that they're talking to. I know for me, when I started to take and actually pay attention to the people that I was talking to and what they needed, I got much better at getting my listings done. When I started to consider where they're coming from, the emotional state that a person that was listing their property, especially listing their property for the first time, was in, and started addressing everything I do to that, I became a much more successful listing agent. In fact, that is what allowed me to transition from working with buyers at all to working exclusively with listings, because I know now if I go to get a listing, I'm going to come out with the paperwork signed.
Right. And it's not because you are better at comparables or you filled out that contract impeccably. It's because you are going to walk into a room. You're going to be able to read the room. Okay. And that's the thing. So I gave you the example a little while ago. So it's the $100,000 property, $1 million property, or $10 million property. Let's use those numbers there. The numbers are significantly different.
Sure.
I mean, one you're making, $3,000. The other one you're making $30,000. The other one you're making $300,000. Okay, you're using it on a 3%. Okay, big difference in numbers. Same dynamic.
Sure.
Right. You could have the same exact dynamic. The person that you need to get through. One might be a financial advisor. One might be the uncle. One might be the wife that doesn't want to sell, but the husband does, or vice versa. So you being able to go in there and convincing that person, right? So what does it take to convince that person, right? How to win friends and influence people, I already mentioned that. But how about negotiation?
Of course, it's all a negotiation. I mean, realistically, I can tell you, just talking about two different listings that I went on just a couple of days apart. There was an agent from this office that called me about doing a commercial listing to help them out. They hadn't done a commercial listing before. So when we went, it was two schools they were looking to list. And I walk in the door, and it's a mother and the son. And the son, I could tell, is already a little bit of a problem.
Put it nicely.
Yeah. And so I walk in and he says, give us an open listing basically, or get out. I said, okay. Now I've already taken and assessed what this meeting is going to be like. This is going to be combat royale, right? And so I changed how I would approach this to combat royale. I started to push back on him really hard. And I pushed back on him really hard till I could see that I had gotten some respect. I had earned my place at the table. Once I did that, I kept pushing back, and then I took a step back and said, you see how hard I'm pushing right now? That's why you want me, because that's how hard I'm going to push for you. With the other side, I like you. The other side, I don't need to like them. For him, for that customer, that's what they needed. Again, making friends, influencing people. Another listing I went on, the woman was 85 years old. Just recently, in the coronavirus thing, she's scared to have people in her house. I had to take and talk her down, had to calm her down, dealing with the relatives in a different part of the state. I got that listing from teaching a class in Ocala. Somebody in Ocala knew this lady. It just super convoluted. But I'm dealing with all these players, and I have to keep them all calm and on track through this whole thing.
Right, but were you born with the ability to do that shit?
No, man. I am like the worst at this kind of like networking. I am the worst person to take networking. 20 minutes and I'm out of there. I can't do it. It's not my jam.
Right, that's my point. One of the things that I see like a lot is that, not that people think I got lucky where I'm at, and the success I've had in this business, but that I was kind of born with some kind of like, gift or oh yeah, because you're really good at that. Motherfuckers, because I made myself really good at that, right?
Absolutely.
When I first started in this business, I was raw. Guys, I grew up in a trailer park. You understand? I grew up in a place where I didn't need to speak, a certain way, the business way, the kind of, that I speak right now, and a little bit more. I'm not the most eloquent guy in the world, but, I could hold a professional conversation. I did not have that. So much so that when I started in the business, I would go to the worst neighborhoods possible. I would go to the hood to be able to get my listings because I wasn't sure of myself.
Sure.
I had, so I grew up playing basketball. So I would wake up in the morning and I had to find the worst neighborhoods possible because that's usually where the best competition was. So I would wake up in the morning and figure out what the bus routes are to get to wherever it is so I could play with the best competition. So that, to me, I wasn't scared of that. It was part of my daily routine almost,
Right.
So when I started, I felt more comfortable there. So understand what lack of preparation does to your mind, okay, guys? So I felt better going to a $50,000 or $60,000 property that I would make almost nothing in a place where my biggest concern is coming out alive.
Right.
Right. I would have to go with a sidearm. Like I like when they call it sidearm for some reason. I would have to go with a sidearm. I had to be vigilant. I didn't want to go at night, but I wasn't scared of that.
Yeah.
Right. I was prepared for that, but I wasn't scared of it. What terrified me was going to $1 million property.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. What are they going to ask me? What are they going to do? They're different. They're like, oh my God, they're this, or a multi-million-dollar property. That's the fear. The lack of preparation scared me so much that it led me to stay all the way down there. Now, I made the choice of not staying down there, right? I made the choice to get myself, start speaking a little bit better, start getting more eloquent, start being more professional, right? Preparing myself. Again, the books like that I just mentioned, books on negotiation, right? Body language, a lot of the stuff that we deal in the negotiation class, right? Body language, lie detection, and just preparing, motivation, right? So in order to go from a $100,000 property in that case, let's say, to a $500,000 property, it takes some motivation, it takes some courage. I need to get myself up in the morning and go do that.
And let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Was that comfortable?
Fuck no.
But see, here's the thing.
It sucked.
Here's the thing. What worked for you is you were more uncomfortable staying where you were. It was more uncomfortable to stay put.
It wasn't an option.
It wasn't comfortable enough to stay put. You got so uncomfortable with that you were willing to take on the discomfort of these other things. If there was one thing that I could tell people out there listening, is to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Don't be comfortable with where you are.
Being uncomfortable.
You have to love being uncomfortable, because the reality of it is you are stuck with you. If you don't get the best out of you, the person that loses is you.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to take and motivate you. And you know what? If you're miserable where you are, you'll actually go do something about it. If you're comfortable, you'll stay there. You'll be unhappy. You'll complain about it. You'll call your friends up and you'll say, oh, gee, it sucks and yada, yada. But it's not enough to make you get off your butt, pick up a book, take a class, find the money to get something done, to take it and build into yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are your chief operating tool.
Yeah.
And if you're not taking and working on this, you're missing the greatest tool you have for change in your life.
Yeah, and look, my son wrestles, and listen, I hated wrestling when I was in high school. I thought it was disgusting. I thought it was it was everything, right? That I didn't want to be involved with, but because my son wrestles and everything, I've fallen in love with that sport. And the main thing about that sport, there's like a mantra in that sport. It's fall in love with the grind, the everyday thing. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I could tell you, my son's 9 years old. That son of a bitch is comfortable being uncomfortable. 3-hour practices daily. The stuff that he goes through, and that's the stuff that you need to go as a realtor. You need to understand as a professional. I'm just saying realtor because it's realtor, but your main thing, you asked me, was that comfortable? Was it comfortable going through and putting? I just didn't want to. I refused to settle. I didn't get into this business to be a regular realtor. Mm-hmm. I did not do that. I needed to be at the top. I needed to grow. I have my goals. I'm on my way to be the biggest real estate company in Miami. That's just it. Like, that's the goal. Now, if you're in biggest real estate company in Miami, now all of a sudden, what is it? Miami, LA, New York, there's certain, seriously, and all of a sudden you're the biggest around and the most powerful around. Powerful meaning, hey man, we get deals done, and our sales volume and everything like that. So that's the goal. That's the stuff that wakes me up every day. I could have settled with having 10 realtors and that type of stuff. Nothing's wrong with that, but that's not what I wanted. So I brought myself from a guy who had to go to the hood to get a listing to right now, working on about, getting to 400 realtors now. You know what I mean? So, because I didn't settle, because I prepared myself. Hey, you think, recruiting agents from different companies and everything like that and telling them, hey, here's why we're better. You think that's fucking easy? You think it's
No,
easy to
it's a tough value proposition to make.
but I could only do it because I woke up in the morning every day and I decided to be better, right? So what's happening right now? Let's talk corona. Let's go back to coronavirus. So you have the chance right now to read hundreds of books. Okay, I know that the moms, and some of the dads are working, and I get it. All right, but guys, that means you want to find an excuse no matter what. You're at home more than ever right now. Get your ass on YouTube. Okay, let's go case by case. Let's talk about appraisals, right? Realtors. How are you going to deal with a difficult realtor? This is number one difficulty. If I had to list them in level of difficulty, realtors is number one.
Yep.
There's no if, answer, buts about it. Difficult realtors, unprofessional realtors that have no business being in this business. Okay, that's number one obstacle. How the fuck are we going to get better in the 30, 60, depends who you ask. Let's call it 30 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not even call it 30 days. We're already at what? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Well, it's April 7th. Yeah, we're 3-4 weeks into this thing.
Okay, so call it 2 months, right? So we're starting today. Let's call it another month and a half, right? Where you at least are going to be home a lot more than you usually are, okay? Let's get better at dealing with other people. Again, that's the book, but negotiation, right? There's another thing that I didn't have when I first started in this, when I went on my crusade of getting better and reading books. It was YouTube. I mean, I'm sure, yes, guys, it did exist, but it wasn't nowhere near what it is right now. So books on negotiation, books on body language, right? Understanding, right? So I've gone into deals where body language saved my ass.
Sure.
Because, okay, I'm a pretty damn good negotiator, right? I mean, Cadillac and I, we teach a 4-hour negotiation class. When you're teaching anything, you got to like really prepare your mind. And I do consider myself an above average negotiator, definitely, right? But, going out there and preparing yourself for negotiation, understanding it, right? Body language is key to everything. When I was telling you that story, that it saved my ass. Body language saved my ass and a lot of things, because I'm talking to the person and I'm negotiating with the person and they're telling me one thing, but their body
something else,
completely different. They might be saying yes, but they're leaning back in their chair, and they're crossing their hands and they're looking away, but they just said yes. So who do I listen to? Do I listen to the body language, or do I listen to the words out of their mouth? Guys, not even close. Body language all day, every day. What people say means nothing. How they say it, and what comes out of, like, literally leaning front, leaning back, hands closed, hands open, arms open, arms closed, the whole situation, all of that matters. So if you don't understand the dynamic, you don't need to become a body language expert, guys. Let me tell you a little secret. If you can, great. But if you're, I say the story all the time because it's a buddy of mine that I was sitting in a chair. I asked him a question. I was sitting in a chair. He was standing up in front of me. I asked him a question that I knew could have gone either way.
Yeah.
My buddy, I needed him to do something for me, right? And I brought up the subject, and he goes, yeah, and took a step back, right? I'm like, dude, see, these are the cases, bro, because you're my buddy. Like, I kind of wish I didn't understand body language as much as I do. Okay, tell me why you didn't like it. Well, what do you mean? I'm like, dude, he stepped back and he crossed his arms.
Yeah.
Right, stepped back and crossed his arms. I'm like, all right, dude, just tell me what's up. And then of course, he had to admit that he didn't like what it was, and then we talked it out, right? So that could be a $10 million deal, or it could be just me and my buddy, trying to negotiate something between us, right?
Right.
It's still a preparation, right? So when you're dealing with these clients, when you're dealing with these other realtors, you need to understand that, because when you're going to meet with them at, maybe you're going to go meet with that realtor at the house or something like that, and you're talking to them and you're trying to get a deal done, you want to know what the real truth is. You want to know what the hell's going on.
Yep.
Body language, lie detection, right? When somebody's telling you something, wouldn't it be, let's say that I could give you a pill that every time somebody lied to you, you have a pretty good, not for sure, but you had a really good determination on whether they were lying to you or not. Would you take that pill?
Sure.
Right. Well, we didn't kill you, right? You know, I'm sure Cadillac started thinking, well, it depends. You know, what are the
No,
side
no,
effects?
I was on it. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, all of those skills, and I mean, we could throw on top of that. I mean, for me, the things that help me a lot is, and it's going to sound odd, but economics and history are
Really?
huge parts. Absolutely, because I can now take and have context. If you look at what's missing in our world today, there's lots of opinions, but very little context. The reason why we're so freaked out by the coronavirus thing is because they put the numbers out there with no context. They don't compare it to anything that's happened in the past. They sit there and say, "Oh, we have this number." Well, how does that compare to car accidents?
Well, and also they're trying to scare the fuck out of you. They're just trying
Because bad
to.
news sells, and I get that. But what I'm saying to you is, if you're a person that is looking for context, so when I go to make a listing presentation and I put forth an opinion, I don't say, "Hey, this is my opinion." I say, "This is what I think, and this is why I think the way that I think. Here's all the context that leads to this idea," and that gives my customer a sense of peace. So for me, having the history component to sit there and say, "Hey, this is what's happened before when it's like this,
Mhm.
and this is what's happened after that. So if we're here, we can anticipate this."
Yeah.
That helps me make my case. Also, economics, which is just really the study of what people do with scarce resources based upon various forces that are applied to them. And so all of these things lets me look at a market and give people a conversation that's different than what they are going to get from the other 9 agents they interview. And what I'm always looking to do is to sound different than all the other guys,
Yeah.
all the other folks that go there. And so again, using the time and the opportunity to do all of those things to add to your chief piece of business equipment yourself.
Your brain. Right. And here's another thing, mentality, your mental state. So these, by the way, book number 2, let's talk about book number 2 that I would recommend. You know, it's I don't consider it a close second, but it's definitely second, because if I had to stay with one, I mean, right? But it's Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right? Because I did not grow up rich. My parents were awesome, but they did not grow up rich. As a matter of fact, they were dirt poor, right? My dad more than my mom. My dad, I mean, there's stories with my dad didn't have enough, so he had to make his own clothes. So he always wanted a suit, you know, so he wanted to make his own suit, but he only had enough material for the shirt for this part right here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he made the suit so that the shirt could sew onto the suit. So it looked like he had a suit,
Mm-hmm.
but the whole other shit was just bare back, right?
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's the level of poor that I didn't experience. I mean, listen, we weren't exactly kicking ass over here when we first got here from Cuba and everything, but it wasn't nowhere near that. And I mean, he tells me the story. He would go to the parties and he was hot as shit, but he could never take the jacket off because the jacket he couldn't take it. You were stuck with it. So,
Yeah.
you know, but it's you know. I lost my train of thought there. Where the hell was I going with that? Kind of like that started getting me thinking.
Mentality.
Yeah. Listen. So you wanna mentality wise, you wanna make sure that every single day you're out there and you're getting motivated and you're out there and you're getting better and you're not settling for stuff. If you start off in you know, again, not economically where you need to be, you got to know that you're not stuck there. Times like this are exactly the time to do that. When else are you going to have time to read as many books as you're going to read right now? Go with listen to as many videos, prepare yourself as much as you're going to read. Oh, I know what I was thinking now. The How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I had to get my mindset away from that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had to get my mindset from my parents doing their best, right? But how do rich people actually think?
Sure.
Right? Like, what makes them different? So this was the first book on the study of wealth and accumulation of wealth. You've read that one, right?
I Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So I always like to ask anyway. All right. So it's the first. Again, guys, these are 100-year-old books, right? Both of these are over 100 years old. Books that you could buy for like $5, $7. So you're not going to have to buy a $50 hardcover or one of these. What do you call it? You put on the coffee tables, right?
Yeah.
But these are $7 books. You know, you buy them used probably for $3. But again, it's 100 years ago. This guy going out there and studying the brain and the mind of the wealthiest people back then, which was Andrew Carnegie,
Mhm.
Henry Ford,
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff.
Rockefeller, yeah.
Rockefeller. What makes these people different? I remember, man, like what? Like, oh shit. Like I always had ambition. I grew up that I will tell you it was let's call it a natural gift. I've always had ambition. Ambition was always there since day one. Never wanted to be the same as everybody else. Always wanted to be better than everybody else, right? But what does that mean? How do you get your mind from the poor kid from the trailer park to, hey, feeling comfortable with a multimillionaire in a table, feeling comfortable with the richest man in the world in a table, right? How does that, where does that mentality come from? What do you got to do? How do you got to think? How does your brain operate? The only way to do that, normally rich kids are taught by their rich parents and their rich grandparents. But if you don't have that lineage, that rich lineage, how do you got to get it? How do you know how you have to think and how do you look at the world? Well, you're gonna have to read it. To me, no better book than Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It was the first book. So let's put it this way: all the self-help books pretty much come from that one.
Mm-hmm.
That I could say that's the seed that then grew. Is that fair to say, Cadillac?
Yeah, no, it was really the granddaddy of them all.
Right. So that's the seed that grew all the other trees, and then the fruits, and it continued from there. So you're gonna once you read that one, like everybody should read that one so they could understand all the other ones, how the pieces come from that. Because at the end of the day, he did such an amazing job that Dale Carnegie, that was it Dale Carnegie, yeah, right? No. Yeah. It was Dale Carnegie, Think and Grow Rich.
No, Napoleon
Hill. That's right, Napoleon Hill. That was how to win. So Napoleon Hill did such an amazing job going in there and interviewing people and researching and understanding it. That's a book that I've read 10 times, and as a matter of fact, I'm pretty much due for it again. It's like one of those things that you got to take every once in a while to kind of refresh your memory, to open up your mind for that. But again, it's understanding. So in these times right now, if you could come out of this, of these 30 days, 60 days or whatever, being better at negotiation, okay? Being better at body language, which is going to make you better at negotiation, lie detection, going in there and watching videos, reading books on negotiation, straight up one-on-one negotiation, understanding the dynamics of it. Then you go and you do how to win friends and influence people and Think and Grow Rich. So you're going to understand the dynamics of dealing with other people. How do you influence somebody to be on your side? And then you start thinking, how do these rich people think? What makes them different? Are they genetically different? And that's the thing. I know it sounds crazy, but I remember thinking those people were different. They were different. I remember thinking as a poor kid, oh, they're different, right? If I would have looked at myself right now, I would have been scared shitless of myself now. Yeah. My 18-year-old self would have been scared shitless of this guy right now, right? Right. I'm sitting in a big office, big company, the whole situation. Dude, this guy, oh man, So it's how do you think? How do those people think? What makes them becoming comfortable knowing that everybody is the same? The only thing that's going to separate you is your preparation, is your understanding of how the human mind works, how other realtors work, how just everything, it's 90% human interaction, this business,
Absolutely. And I mean, it's getting better at your craft. And I mean, actually it's an interesting thing because in addition to YouTube stuff and all the other avenues out there, audiobooks, Audible, they state just yesterday, Freck just met and approved online classes to be taught for continuing education for the next 90 days.
Oh, okay. It's probably going to stick too.
Yeah, it may. We'll see, because they want to take and make sure like you're in there, you're not sitting there, watching
That's true.
Whatever in the background. So you have the opportunity to go out there and do what I can tell you I definitely did in the first 2 years of my business. I collected every real estate certification and designation I could.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I wanted to be master of the craft that I was doing. And
by the way, guys, I want to make sure, and I haven't mentioned this, he is not exaggerating. I let's put it this way: if you guys find a designation he doesn't have, let him know, and he's not going to be able to control himself. He's going to go out there and he's going to go get it. All right. His signature is about 5 pages long. His email signature, he has every single one, and his ACE classes, what's the exact name of it?
The ACE, credit closing expert.
Yeah. Okay. So those classes are every piece of information. So he took one class. I don't know, 15% of it was actually useful.
If
He
that.
kept that, right. And in most cases less, but it's just, maybe it's just one thing. So he started adding them and adding them and adding them until he created his courses, the ACE courses, and it goes through negotiation, it goes through objections, it goes through everything. So this is a guy who's been out there getting information, teaching around the country. So that he teaches for the National Association of Realtors, he teaches locally, and it's specifically realtor stuff, right?
Sure.
But gotten from all of these different designations, aside from that, and I know I mentioned that, but audiobooks, guys, when I say he's read books, he hasn't really read books. He does the audio. I kind of sometimes do both. I do the audio first, and then I read the book. Like the Ted Turner book, I did both. I did audio and I read it. The Steve Jobs one, I did it. The what's his old man? The Berkshire Hathaway.
I always have a hard time. I remember Charlie Munger is his partner.
Yes, right.
Which Charlie Munger has a very good book. Actually.
Oh, does he? I didn't
yes,
know
he
that.
does. Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett.
Everybody else knows his name, but me
right.
for
So
some reason.
So Warren Buffett, I read his book and I heard it on audio too. So those are the kind of the three. I think the Bill Clinton one also, but those are the books that I've done both. But you could do audio. I mean, you could do audio. What I like to do with audio, because I have a serious attention deficit disorder, I'll listen to it twice, right? Just so that I listen to it once, not caring that I missed something, right?
Yeah.
So I'll have it on. Let's put it this way, right? So maybe before I go to sleep, when I wake up in the morning, when I'm in the car, the whole situation, I'll have it on. And then the second time around, I'll go and I'll kind of focus a little bit more on it. But hey, look, if you're one of those people that could assimilate information, Cadillac listens to it on what? On 2 or 2.5 speed?
2.5.
2.5 speed. Can you put that on there real quick? Just to us common folk, normal folk here could see what that sounds like.
Something like.
So, because he's able to kind of capture it.
Audible Dick presents Don't You Believe It? Exposing the myths behind 250 commonly believed fallacies. Written by Herb Reich. Narrated by Michael Kramer.
Yeah, something like that.
It sounds like a chipmunk.
The idea for this book first came to mind. I didn't know.
Let's see if it wants to stop now.
So he goes through it. Now he's able to concentrate and listen to it. But the whole point is, I don't know how the hell he captures that, but whatever. I guess you train yourself, right?
Yeah,
little by little.
Sit there with a dark room.
So that makes a 5-hour book.
An hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not just. I mean,
So that's one cardio session.
there's a piece of all of this, which is also the real practice of real estate too, which is the idea that you're not just taking and doing the job of going and doing your job. You're actually looking at what you've done to determine whether or not you can do it better. And that's if I look at all the time, agents do the same dumb things over and over and over again. And having trained agents for a long time, in addition to having been a top producer for a lot of years, looking at it and saying, why are you doing it like that?
Yeah.
Is there a better way?
Yeah.
And so, this is a time. This time is also a time to assess your business. I think, and to take a step back and look at the whole thing. I mean, the ACE courses, and I mean, one of the cool things about this time is I've written more courses during this time off.
Yeah.
In fact, what we're talking about right now is going to be a class that's dealing with the deal killers.
Yeah. Yeah. We're actually preparing a class right now. We had some point of topics to discuss today. All these deal killer stuff. We decided let's just go on the podcast and let's talk about it there. And that way we're gonna. So actually we're creating a class. Or Cadillac's creating a class here based on the stuff that we're talking about today.
And because I mean there are you could be the greatest agent in the whole wide world. You could take all the other classes and do everything right, but there's other people that are involved in your deal that'll kill your deal.
Yeah.
Right.
So we went with realtors, right? What's another deal killer there?
Okay. Well,
Again, let me just summary. Let me just not leave this up in the air. All right. So summary: to deal with other realtors, how you got to get better yourself at dealing with people. That means every aspect of it. That means body language. That means lie detection. That means how to influence people. It means just straight up negotiation. It means everything that has to do psychology, anything that has to do with dealing with people. By the way, that's number one for a reason, because I think it's 80-90% of it. Okay?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, whether it's assessing whether that agent is the know-it-all agent that's been doing it forever, or it's a brand new agent that has no clue.
Or he's actually a real one that knows what he's doing, and then you want to give him the respect, and you want to be like, hey, why don't you run the show here? Hey, listen, you've been in this business 40 years, man. I've only been in it, 20. What do you think we should do here?
But I mean, the question is, as an agent, is that when you're picking that phone up, most agents are just trying to say the thing they're supposed to say, as opposed to thinking, hey, I need to assess who this person is on the other end of the line. That's one of the biggest transitions there are for dealing with other agents, I think, is switching from, hey, I just need to tell him something or her something. I need to listen and see how they answer. They respond to what I'm saying. I need to suss out what kind of person this is that I'm dealing with so that I can deal with them in the way that's going to be best for them to get the result that I want. And so, no, I think that's huge.
Appraisal's next, right? Let's
Sure,
we can call that second.
appraisal?
Yeah. So look, we talked this one. We talked a little bit about it, like off the microphone. And I think so we're talking about how to avoid these deal killers, how to be prepared to fix these issues, or just to avoid them. And in reality, when we talk about appraisal, my take on it was like, kind of like, really. This is more like a preventative thing than anything else. Like, this is a preventative pill that you're going to take to fix this ailment. Is how do you avoid appraisal issues? Do your comparables the right way and don't have fucking appraisal issues, right? If you do your comparables the right way, if you prepare yourself. So here's another thing to get better at: comparables, right? Call your mortgage guy, tell him to put you on the phone with an actual appraiser and understand. So we give classes here where we actually bring an appraiser in and we pick their brain on stuff and we make them, we want to understand what rules, right? Is it in 90 days? Do you go back 90 days on the comparables, right? Closed sale comparables. Do you want to go with a half a mile, if it's inside the subdivision, if it's outside the subdivision, right? All of that stuff you want to get with an appraiser, and you want to, dude, how much do they charge for an appraisal? $400?
Yeah.
Pay him $100. Pay him $100 and say, can I get 30 minutes of your time?
Yeah, no, I mean, people are happy to pay $120,000 for a college education, but actually to take and spend some time with somebody that real world is the gatekeeper to whether or not you make your commission. That people don't want to take and do.
Right.
It's
hey,
foolhardy.
Appraiser, I'll wire you, I'll Zelle you, I'll Cash App you $100 right now. Give me 30 minutes where I'm going to have a shitload of questions and walk me through this process. Is there a better way to spend $100? I mean, well, there's a lot more fun ways, but is there ways? Is there if you could come out of this whole thing understanding appraisals way more, a one-on-one class by an actual appraisal, having 3 or 4 different properties where you're going to go through it together and you're going to be on the MLS together and you're checking comparables together. Seriously, you wouldn't do that? Come on. Like right now, again, how are we going to get out of this shit better? How are we going to get out of this 30 days better? Tell you right now, get an appraisal, pay him $100. If you get him for free, great. Use your negotiation skills that you learn from the other stuff, right? And influence him into doing it for less. But either way, do it. Get better at that. So yeah, how do you avoid appraisal issues? You become real good at doing these comparables. If you're already there and the shit hits the fan, then revert to number 1, which is how to deal with people and try to convince that appraisers. Be there at the house.
Absolutely.
So supposed to appraise for $1 million and appraise for 900,000, right? Or you're thinking, or you're starting to think, maybe show up there, show them the comparables, lead them in the right direction, and try to convince them. Because believe it or not, I know this for a fact, guys. I've done this to countless amount of appraisals. Not done this, but I've done this with, I show up there with my comparables. Right. So if there's a question on it, I show up there and I lead them in the right direction. And I've done that not once. I give you that example at the beginning of this. I've done that 1,000,000 times. Right. You got to be prepared for it. But you know what? I knew my shit.
Well, that's the other piece of it. And there's more than most agents feel like once they get I need 3 active and 3 closed comps and I'm good to go. And that comes from doing BPOs. I mean, I know you've probably done a bunch of BPOs.
Thousands of let's talk about BPOs for a second. Just so you guys know, just so you guys who didn't suffer through 2008, the only way to make a buck, 2009, 2008, something like that, was these banks would pay you $30, $35 to go out there, take a picture of the property and do a comparable.
Broker's price opinion.
Price opinion.
And so that basically gave you a form similar to what an appraiser would have to use.
Right.
And now you have to sit there and think about, well, this one's 1972 and the other one is 1960. Do I make an adjustment for that? Is a property more valuable because it's 12 years newer? You have to take, and it makes you go down this list of things, and it makes you much better at comps. But here's the big takeaway from me. This is kind of the big thing that I would do differently, is that I'm not just going to show up with 3 active and 3 closed comps. I'm going to show up with the 3 active and closed comps I want them to use, and I'm going to show up with all the other comps I can find and disqualify all of them and say, hey, I'm not using this one because, and I'm not using this one because at the end of the day, the appraiser has to do that. He has to make the case why he didn't use these other ones. If I can't, again, influence him by saying, hey, look, I've done the work for you. This one's no good because it was a distressed sale. This one's not. This one was no good because it was a complete gut job. This one's no good. It had $5,000 worth of liens plus a whole bunch of other stuff they had to take. If I can disqualify those other properties, it saves them the time of doing that research and maybe missing something that I picked up on. Because guess what? Appraisers are human and they make mistakes too. And so all of these things are ways to take, and you can't fix it, but you can at least try to mitigate it, minimize what effect those folks have.
Right, but you also need to know the rules of appraisals, right?
Sure.
So, okay, so you have a property. We have a town here. Here in Miami, it's Doral, right? So that's where my office actually is, right? So Doral, 90% of Doral is private communities. And I'm being nice by 90. It might be almost 100% of them are private communities. So what does that mean? If you might have a property that's right across the street from another, and the value is drastically different.
Sure.
Why? Because of the amenities,
Sure.
because of the age of the community. Maybe the pool is an Olympic-sized pool with like waterfalls, and there's actually one case in Doral where it literally has waterfalls and a badass gym and everything. Then you have one across the street that's plain Jane, has a puddle for a pool, you know, and one has a security gate. Like this one example here has an actual security company at the gate that actually won't let you in.
Yeah,
right. And they have 2 sides and they're in real uniform and they're super serious about it. And you got the one next door that if you just wait for somebody to go in, you can follow them in.
Yeah.
You know, one of those. So those are the things, right, that differentiates the value. So do you use the comparables inside? How many do you, if there's 3 inside, do you use all 3? If there's only 2, do you go outside? If you go outside the community, how do you go outside the community? How far do you go? You go a 0.5, you go a mile. If it's a rural area, right?
Sure.
How far do you go?
The rules change.
Rules change, right? So how the hell do you guys expect not to succeed and not survive? We're not talking about survive. We're talking about succeed.
Thrive. Yeah.
Thrive, succeed in this business if you don't know that shit. What separates you from the rest, okay? So by sitting down with an appraisal and getting all this information and understanding it, have a condo, have a single family house, have something in a rural area, right? Do a commercial one, understand it, you know, income approach and cost comparison approach and understand. Go back to your, and listen, I can't believe I'm even recommending this, but go back to your real estate book, right? Go back to your this where you got your license and read the part about appraisals and understand what is, dive into it. Get out of this thing with like 100% more knowledge than you have right now. Right now, all you know maybe is, you order an appraisal.
Yeah.
And then you get back a number. And hopefully
that number is better than it works. Yeah.
Hey, hopefully it works. If it doesn't, oh man, no deal. If you're thinking that way right now, guys, I am going to enlighten you. That's just not the way it is. You could avoid having an appraisal issue if and when at some point this appraisal number doesn't come where it's supposed to be. You're able to what's the word they use? It's not debate. It's not combat it. It's
oh, I know what you're saying.
Whatever. You tell the guy, no, I need you to. Damn, I wish I knew that word. Whatever. You could go ahead and fight it. Right. Let's just use that word for now. Let's go fight it and contest. You could contest it, and you could offer them comparables. Some of them are going to ignore it, but some of them are not. Some of them are going to be like, oh, okay, damn, I didn't see this one. Why? Because they're doing a bunch of appraisals. Maybe they didn't see it. Maybe they didn't see the one that wasn't on the MLS. Maybe they only use the MLS. There's other programs that you could use that just pulls up the for sale by owner sales, right? The tax records, the actual property, the county property records, right? So, again, so we're by 2 things that you could do right now. You could get yourself better on dealing with these realtors, and you could understand that appraisal thing from one end to the other, and you could pick these guys' brain and understand the rules that they give so that you don't do comparables on a property that's sold in 120 days when you could only use 90.
I got to say that, this is definitely a sign of the times. Since you mentioned that Olympic-sized pool and that kick-ass gym, I have not been able to pay attention to anything else. this COVID-19 thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to go in the pool. And I want to go to the
know,
gym, man.
I know,
this,
man. Yeah,
this is so not cool.
The gym's not. You
Ah,
know, listen, and when you listen, and when you say that, I gotta say. So I called my buddy the other day. You know, it's kind of hard to talk. I don't want to, you know, throw anybody under the bus, or not even under the bus. I just don't want to name names, right? But so I've been doing the numbers on risk for this COVID-19 by so I get the total amount of cases, right, in Dade County, the total amount of cases, people that have tested positive, which again, I don't even want to, it's warped anyway, but okay. People amount that are tested with the amount of deaths, okay? And I'll get a number. Usually the number that I'm getting is anywhere from a 0.5% mortality rate, meaning that you're going to die from it. If you get it, you're going to die from it. It's anywhere from a 0.5 to a 1%. Okay, but it's usually doesn't even hit 1%. So I called a buddy of mine, and he's like, you know, we're talking about this. He's like frustrated, you know, and this is crazy, man. I can't believe that, you know, they're shutting everything down and everything. And then he's like, I tell him about the number. I go, yeah, man, and we're at I think that day we were at a 0.6. And I'm like, yeah, man, dude, and you know, the mortality rate's at a 0.6. He's like, 0.6? What do you mean 0.6? I'm like, oh, and to my mind, I was like, oh, wait a second, am I calculating this wrong? Is it a 0.20? Is it a 20%? Or like, I was scared of what he was going to tell me, because I had been in my mind safe with that number, and I didn't want him to come back with some crazy ass, you know, high number. Then all of a sudden I got to start being scared too. So he goes, no, man, what you got to do is actually divide that by the population. You got to divide that by, so you get the 50 people that have died, okay? And you got to divide that by 2.8 million people that are in Miami-Dade County. And that's going to give you a 0.0000096. That was yesterday that I calculated it, right? So that means, and I go like, but why are you, he's like, I'm like, oh, interesting. Why are you doing it that way? He's like, because what I want to know is when I go out in the street,
what are my chances of
dying of this thing?
Right.
Right. Now, here's another thing, though. If you notice, and if you speak to the medical professionals here locally, and I'm speaking here locally, but I suspect it's around the same shit everywhere. Flu illnesses and flu deaths and flu everything was on a spike up before coronavirus got here. Guess what they did? They disappeared.
Yeah, they convoluted the two together. Man.
They disappeared, right? So then I got buddies that are fire station, you know, guys, rescue guys that work in ambulances and this type of stuff, and they're also telling me, hey, man, when they take these people to the hospital, they're just categorizing them as COVID-19. So even that numbers work. But again, you know, listen, we could talk about this shit forever, and we would never get to our other, what is it, 3 deal killers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, this is just to take and kind of give a quick brush over these ideas, and the idea that, you know, these things don't necessarily have to kill your deal. There's skills to be had to get better. I want to take a step back for just a second and tell a story. I had a guy that used to be my personal trainer back when I was working out. And this guy would eat the same thing every day. Like,
I know a couple guys like that.
Like tuna, but like in water.
In water.
And like a cup of brown rice. Like, and it was like the most bland. Like if he ate the styrofoam plate, it would probably have tasted better than anything he was eating, right? And so one day I asked him, I said, you know, like, how do you manage to take and do this? And he said, you know, look, I'm terrified that if I start eating good food, I won't be able to stop.
It's like an addiction almost.
It is. And I sat back and I thought to myself, my God, you know, this is the most disciplined guy I know, and he's terrified of himself. And I think that there's a good, because I had a very similar conversation with somebody the other day. They're like, you know, Josh, you have to become comfortable in your own skin. And I was like, you know, I don't know that I ever want to be comfortable in my own skin. I always want to have a problem with this guy. I always want this guy to be better, and then eventually I'll take a 6-foot dirt nap.
It's never enough.
Yeah. And so I think that there's that place, because I mean, we're in a society right now that tells us, oh, we're all beautiful butterflies.
Yeah. Here's a participation trophy.
Absolutely.
Oh, you did so good, dude. I went. Sorry, you done with that story? I don't want to forget one, but go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's time.
So I went to play basketball with my son the other day, because he's like, oh, let's play basketball. I think he does that because I played basketball when I was a kid. So he's like, let's go play basketball, Dad. I'm like, all right, let's go play basketball. So I go to this park, and I'm like, hey, so ask that kid if he wants to play. So he asked the kid if he wants to play, and the kid says, yeah. And then, you know, they start playing, and my son scores, you know, point. And my son goes, all right, it's 1-0. And he goes, no, we're not taking score. He looks at me. I remember my son looking at me. He's like, "What the fuck?
Yeah.
How do you play a game with no score?" And I'm like, "Dude, like, how you looking at me?" I go, "You keep score. He doesn't want to keep score. Don't let him keep score." So that's the world we're fucking living in.
But I mean, I believe that actually what you said to your son is absolutely right. You know what?
That pisses me off for some reason.
No, it should.
It really does,
I mean,
dude.
honest-
It drives me crazy.
Honestly, our reaction to this in general has pissed me off. But what you said to your son is really good advice, because the reality of it is I don't tell anybody what the score is with my personal game wins and losses for myself.
Right.
But God knows I'm keeping score.
Damn right.
I'm keeping score, because you know what? This guy, I got to watch him.
Yeah.
He gets lazy. You know, I got to stay on his ass. He's a problem.
Right, but that's an actual reality right now where people are telling their kids play sports but don't take scores.
The reality of it is
What the fuck?
We have become a super risk averse society. I mean, I see, you know, men used to be the risk takers, right? I mean, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I mean,
I think you said it already.
Yeah, it's that ship has sailed. But I mean, if you look just historically, men have always taken the more higher risk occupations. I mean, there's a lot more
statistically correct.
There's more women that are kindergarten teachers and more men that are explosives experts. It's just, you know, natural tendencies, right? All the men I know are like tripping over themselves to show how socially aware they are, and you know how they have hand sanitizer and how clever they are. They got a little hat that's got dual hand sanitizer dispensers on it and stuff like this. You know, like I don't know. I'm walking down the street. I got no mask. I got no gloves on, and I'm fine. And I like it almost irritates. Like I'm almost doing it to be countercultural because I feel like we become so soft.
See, I've caught myself just doing it for the sake of fuck, I'm just not going to play this game.
Yes.
I'm just not. And then I've been good at saying, okay, don't catch yourself, because I'm arguing with my friends all day, because I have my group of friends and we're all in this chat and I'm arguing with them all day, because we have half of us that are, you know, on one side, half on the other side, and I'm arguing, and then I catch myself. I'm like, I can't start being an idiot either because of it, you know? And I brought myself back, and there's one thing I go back to every single time I go back to it, is statistics. Numbers don't lie. Guys, please take my advice here. We have a certain amount of homework. We're giving you homework so far, right? Go call an appraisal. Go read a couple books, right? Turn off the news.
Yes.
For 3 days, and only look at the reports. Only look at the numbers. Now, unless you're going to fucking Wisconsin, Dells, Wisconsin, okay? Don't check Wisconsin. Wisconsin's probably at 0, but I don't know why I picked that state. But unless you're going to New York, Manhattan, New York, why are you looking at New York? Unless you're going to Italy, why are you going to Italy? This is not a universal thing. There is a hygienic costumbre. I can't even say what's the word for costumbre and there's just the way society functions, you know, like in Italy, you know, maybe is there more smokers than there are here? Is there an older population?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, so why are we comparing Miami-Dade County in my particular case, right? And you could be in another place. Hopefully we got people, one of the 3 people that are listening are in some other state, so I can feel cool about this. You know, I got people in other states. Can we track if people are listening from another state? Yeah, we'll figure it out, I guess. But you know, look at the place that you're at and look at your numbers, just the numbers. Don't go on Fox or CNN and look at their numbers. Go to the CDC, the actual CDC, and you know, go to the fire station right here locally and ask them for their report, their daily report, okay? And ask, and they have it. Trust me, they have it, because I have it, because I've asked for it, okay? And you'll see, and you're gonna get that number, and you're gonna divide it. If you want to divide it by cases, go ahead, divide it by cases. I'm gonna tell you what, in my particular case, it's always been under a 1%, okay? And if you do it by the amount of population, which I agree with my buddy, it's the correct way. When I go out into the street, what's that number look like?
Yeah.
You know, what does it look like? So just turn off the news and only look at numbers for 3 days. But here's another thing. Don't listen to your dipshit friend that all he does is pound you with negative news. Just look at your own news. Just look at your own numbers and make your own mind. That's all I am saying. I'm not trying to with my friends, I literally stopped answering questions. When they bring up anything, my only answer is no comment.
Yeah.
No comment. Because I am tired
Yeah,
of bringing up these facts.
Nobody's sitting here telling you to go out and lick doorknobs in the coronavirus ward.
So
Nobody's saying that. But you know, at the end of the day, there's something to be said for being courageous, you know, to take and go out there and do what needs to get done and to work. And the reality of it is a lot of people are being harmed by this, by people not being at work. And, you know, I've gone to work every single day. I've come up with projects that needed to get done that are going to take and keep my guys working and keep them employed. Because you know what? If I don't, yes, maybe the government might step in and provide this, that, or the other thing, but who cares? You know, as their employer, my responsibility to them is to keep them working. I've promised them a job, and I want to keep that going for them.
Sure, absolutely.
And so, you know, if I'm a coward, if I cover up and hide, they're materially hurt by that. Their families are materially hurt by that. And, you know, I don't think that's good. And I don't think it's good to be peddling more of the fear. Now, that being said, is there a risk? Do I have a concern that my older mother, who's frail and thin, yeah, you know, I'm concerned for her.
You're a perfect example. Your mother's is an older lady, like you said. She's frail. Okay. By the way, she's at work every day, right?
Every single day.
Right. Okay.
Keep her home.
I just want to add that. Okay. All right. It's impossible to keep her home. Right. So, hey, it's your responsibility. You probably can't get her to do so, but if, hey, mom, stay home. I got this.
Yep.
Hey, me personally. Hey, dad. Hey, mom, stay home. See, my parents are like, you know, real young looking and real healthier than me, maybe even. So it's a bad example, but you have older parents, stay home. I got this. It's not stay home. I'm going to go fucking stay home and hide with you. That's not American. It's not reality. It's not the way we teach our kids. It's not the way we function. If you're older, stay home. I got you. As a society, stay home. We got this. Okay?
Right.
Sick, stay home. We got this. That's the sign of a successful, organized society. We take care of our young, we take care of our old, and we take care of our sick.
Yep.
It's not, I'm 25 years old, no pre-existing conditions, I'm going to go fucking hide with the 85-year-olds, right?
Or go to the beach in spring break, you know? I mean, you know, this is a time when people should be pulling
don't be
together.
an idiot either, 100%.
Yeah, you know, people need to be pulling together. And as you said, you know, stepping up and covering for the folks that maybe are at greater risk. And the fact that, you know, everybody's in their foxholes, cowering, shaking, I don't know. It definitely, it rubs me the wrong way because, you know, I worry that when the hard times do come, when other hard times do come, and people do have to step up, all they've seen all their life is cowardice.
Is there any correlation with the kid who doesn't want to take score at the park to what's happening right now with our society that has not said, hey, just like our boys back in the World War II where they said, hey, old people, stay home. I'm going to grab this gun and I'm going to get dropped off on a ship on a beach, right? And I am want to talk about fucked up statistics? What were the chances? I think there is a statistic on that. What were the statistics if you were to get off that boat in Normandy?
Oh my God.
That you were going to die. Was it a 0.6?
No, it was a little bit different than that.
It was a 0.6 that you were going to live.
Yeah, no.
Right?
The first guys that, I mean, watch the first few minutes of Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
The people that were there on Normandy, most of them had to walk out of the movie because it was so realistic. That's what it was like. How many guys drowned because the boats didn't get close enough and the weight of their equipment dragged them down? That's the ones that didn't get, you know, nailed by machine gun fire. Right.
And that was their responsibility at that point. So the way I look at it, and if you want, you know, at the beginning, I was being very careful with upsetting people and everything like that and everything. I'm like, guys, listen, let me tell you something. Just like it was their role to go into that, and I'm not comparing, listen, I'm not comparing myself even nearly that brave. I don't make sure of that, all right? No, I don't have the courage to jump off with a gun and get shot at, but yeah, guess what? It's my responsibility, just like it was theirs, to go to work every day, okay? And to try to get as much done as possible. This podcast, right? For all our, you know, listen, we don't have all the listeners in the world, but I'm getting to a certain amount of people that hopefully tell a certain amount of people. And hey, we try to do as much as possible. If you're home, great. If you're driving to work because you're essential or you decided to go to work anyway, then hey, guess what? But make yourself better. We can't stop society. We can't stop society.
No.
Listen, I am a huge UFC fan. Okay, I played basketball my whole life, and there was a time where I stopped playing basketball and I started, only watching UFC stuff, right? But I am even more of a fan of it right now because that president of Dana White, president of the UFC, said, "Hey, guess what? I am going to hold my event no matter what on April 18th. Okay, and I'm going to make it safe. I'm going to make it safer than your supermarket." That's actually what he compared. He goes, if you're going to the supermarket, my fights are going to be more safe than the supermarket. I'm going to have more doctors there than ever. I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep everybody safe, but I am going to continue on. I think he either purchased or rented an island or whatever, and he's going to start holding these fights there because he says, hey, this is not about stopping. I am not going to stop the company. I am going to adjust. I am going to make arrangements, and I am going to keep this thing safe, okay? But I am going to continue on. My schedule, my UFC schedule, my UFC fight schedule is going to continue on no matter what. And I guarantee you what day is today? Today's the April 8th. People are going to see that. Other sports are going to see that, and they're going to be like, okay, there's a way to do it. And they're going to start functioning, and other sports are going to start opening up in a safe manner. Because if we had to continue on, which technically we do, but for whatever reason we decided not to, there has to be a way to do it, right? There's doctors. Doctors have been complaining they're not making enough money. Hey, doctors, let's get to work, right? Let's go support these sports. Let's go use our brains and figure out a safe way to get a bunch of people in a room by testing them and keeping them safe throughout the process so that this whole thing goes through. So that is a little micro example of what I think that the whole United States should function like. We be very, very careful. We be very, very responsible. We listen. If you're being crazy and you're being reckless, you should be fined and you should be arrested and you should be everything, right? But if you're living your life and you're moving forward and you're trying to keep this country up and running, hey, that's what we should do, Kind of like, what's another deal killer there? Before we spend another hour on coronavirus.
Well, I was actually thinking about there's a couple of things I was actually looking up, and if you ever get a chance to look up Chesty Puller quotes. Okay. Chesty Puller was a famous Marine, and there's been a few situations where the Marines were in where it was just ridiculous. Like one Marine division was surrounded by 22 divisions, and these guys made it out.
What's his name? Chesty?
Chesty Puller. Okay. Yeah. And in the process, they managed to slaughter 7 divisions of the enemy, which, by the way, the enemy divisions were larger than theirs. And his quote on the way out is something along the lines of, "The mail service has been great here. That's about all the Air Force was good for in this whole thing." I mean, he's that guy, like the enemy's on our left, the enemy's in front of us, behind us on both sides. And he says something like, "Well, they can't get away from us this time."
Right, he's surrounded, but he says, yeah, he can't get
and
away
so
from...
I think a lot of it is perception. A lot of it perception. One of my favorite stories to tell. I like war stories, especially Marine stories, because they have some of the best stories. It's just a quick story, but it's a good one. In the Korean War, the Americans first the Koreans came down, the North Koreans came down and pushed us almost out of Korea. Then the Americans came back, MacArthur came in, and they pushed the North Koreans almost all the way out of North Korea into China. But what they didn't realize was the Chinese had come into the war and they had surrounded with almost 1 million troops. And it was only a handful of troops that they had. I think it was 75,000 American troops total in 3 different divisions, 2 UN divisions, and then this division of 25,000 Marines. This division of Marines is surrounded this place called the Chosin Reservoir. And they're surrounded by like 1 million guys. They managed to break through and rescue the 2 other divisions that were completely captured. They managed, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, built a bridge, managed to escape, taking 100,000 refugees with them, took all their wounded with them, all their equipment, everything. They get the Marine general who was in charge on the ground with these guys and said to him, "How did the Marines manage to pull off such a masterful retreat?" He said, "Retreat? Marines don't retreat. We attack in a different direction." And on days when people are cowering in their homes, I think it's good to bring stuff like that back out. Because you know what? That's just a different way of looking at a bad situation and going out and kicking ass. Yeah. So anyway, on to deal killers. Yeah. One of my personal favorites, I'm a general contractor, so this one kind of hits close to home. I'm also a licensed home inspector, is latent defect, is home inspections.
Right.
Home inspections, to me, it starts with the conversation both the listing agent and the buyer's agent have with the customer to inform them of what the home
Yeah,
inspection
but talk
is.
about how specifically how you handle, if you're on the listing side, how you handle the inspection. Because when I learned that, the way you did it was pretty cool. And this avoids, if you're on the listing end, you're actually resolving issues for both sides by doing it this way. So how is it that you handle the listings and the inspections?
One of the things that I do, especially if it's a home that I know that maybe has repair issues, is I'll ask the seller if they want to get a home inspection. I let them know that it's something that it's potentially a problem for us. And so if we have a home inspection, if the seller pays for a home inspection, we take and attach that to the MLS as an attachment and say, hey, any questions, please see the home inspection. All right. That means any offer we get on that property should be based upon the information that was pre-disclosed in the home inspection. If that information, if that offer, if they get a home inspection after that and they look to take and bring the price down based upon items that were already disclosed in the other home inspection, that offer they made was in bad faith. And I called them out for it.
Right.
I said, wait a second.
So you make them order the inspection. You make your seller pay for the inspection, okay? Which is not an easy thing to do, but when you bring it up and the way you bring it up, and it's a hell of a solution. Say, hey, look, this is as is contract, right? That's the way you use it, as is contract. And by the way, I'm gonna even make it even more as is. Okay, here's everything that's wrong with the property. Do you still want to continue?
Absolutely. Here's everything that's wrong with it. Here's whatever repairs that we did. Here's receipts for it. Here's everything. Disclose it up, because the reality of it is on the listing side, the other side gets 2 bites at our apple, right? Potentially. Inspection and appraisal. Appraisal, we've talked about appraisal, what you can kind of do to help yourselves out. You have a lot less control with the appraisal. With the inspection, though, there's a few things also. One is the inspection is supposed to bring up latent defects, which means things that weren't readily visible. Which means if they're bringing up to me, hey, there's
a keyword, latent.
Yeah. If there's a cracked tile on the floor, I'm saying to them, wait a second. You saw that cracked tile when you walked on the floor to look at the house because you came and looked at the house.
Now you're bringing it up because you want a discount, right?
You want a discount. Wait a second. That means your original offer is in bad faith because you knew about this and you made the offer at this price anyway. So having that clear dichotomy in your mind, that clear separation that, hey, latent and non-latent defects, and to take and keep it clear going forward when you talk to the other side. A lot of times I get inspection reports back that have cost estimates for what things are going to cost. Now, that's not ubiquitous. That's not everywhere. It's parts of the state that doesn't happen, parts of the country that doesn't happen. But sometimes they do this. Guys, I got to tell you something. You need to know what things kind of cost. When you see $27 for a light switch cover, I know it's 79 cents at Home Depot, right? So I'm immediately going to say, hey, look, your guys got $22,800 for repairs on here. I see about $2,800 worth of repairs on here. So let's take and figure out how we're going to break up this $2,800, see how much of it my seller's willing to do, and how much of it we're going to leave for you, and figure out some credit. But most agents say, oh, $22,008, and they lose the deal because the buyer now backs out because they see $22,008. They don't have $22,800. And so there's a dialogue on the listing side. You need to make sure that the buyer's agent has had the conversation with the other side and said, hey, look, you understand what the home inspector's job is, right? His job is not to miss anything that ever, under any circumstances, could ever break in this house in the next year or two, right? So he's going to put if a meteorite could come down from the sky and hit it and break it, he's going to have it on the report, because what he doesn't want to have happen is have something break in this house that's not on his report. So he's looking to cover his butt. So just because it's on the report doesn't mean it's bad. The place that I live right now, the AC was in the last year of its usable life. It lasted 9 more years. I was praying the thing would die. I had a home warranty on the house. I was hoping the home warranty people would have to replace it. Finally, I got rid of the home warranty and got rid of the air conditioner because it would just never die. And it was a terrible air conditioner. It didn't do the job well. So, I mean, recognizing that you have to set both parties up and not expecting that buyer's agent to have the good conversation with their customer and say, look, I know we're buying the home inspection. And it's like if you listen to your attorney all the time, you would never do any deal ever, because their job is to.
My attorney has been on this podcast, and I am very clear, and I tell him all the time, like, dude, I would not be in business if I listened to everything you say.
Of course.
I would, and he's like, in his defense, he's like, hey man, I'm not here to put shit I'm not here to present things pretty for you. I'm here to tell you worst case scenario.
Here's your exposure.
But he's always worst case scenario. But yeah, here's your exposure. Here's the worst thing that could possibly happen. Now you make your decision based on that. A good businessman will probably listen to him a lot less than
Absolutely.
the stuff that he's it's
And it's the same thing with a home inspection. Here's the worst case scenario. So you got to make sure to take and explain to your customer, hey, look, this is the worst case scenario. If you do that and they're prepped when they see that inspection and there's all these things on there, guys, you remember it's the worst case scenario. Oh, okay. They take it with a grain of salt, and that's how it should be taken. It's not all broken. It's all these things are in various states of decay. But guess what? Since the second the home was built, everything in the home was in a various state of decay as well, right? So it could be a 2020 house. Guess what? The roof is no longer brand new. It's 10 days old or whatever. It's on the way to being done. Just like us, we're all dying, same thing. And so you need, once again, back to context, making sure to give the customer who doesn't do this all the time the proper context to look at that inspection report through is huge.
Yeah, what else we got? We got mortgages, financing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Financing and title.
Listen, this is another one of those that this should be more preventative than anything else, right? If you get to the closing table or you get to 15 days before the closing and your deal does not close, as a realtor, and I'm going to make this very clear, as a realtor, it's your fucking fault. It's your fault. It's your fault because you don't have the right mortgage broker. It's your fault because you haven't spent enough time, because maybe you're out there going around using a different mortgage broker every single time, and you're not creating a relationship with your mortgage broker. Now, I own the mortgage company for about 7 years, maybe 7 years of my life. So I respect, guys, the reason why I am not in the mortgage business, it's not because I can't, all right? Is because I absolutely do not want to. It is an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
The attention to detail that you have to have. Oh, coronavirus. The attention to detail that you have to have is just incredible.
Sure.
The room for error is zero. You could have a realtor that could miss addendums on a contract, fill it out horribly. If the deal closes, nobody ever finds out.
Yep.
You will not close a mortgage deal if one issue is not correct. If there's one mistake on it, you will not close the deal. Okay. So it is an extremely, extremely difficult. The worst years of my real estate career was the years that I owned a mortgage company. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. It sucks, but that's why I have such a phenomenal relationship with my mortgage guys. Because you know what? When I'm calling them, I'm not calling them and saying, hey, what did you do wrong? Hey, what happened? Right? When there's an issue, when it gets stuck or anything, what's going on? They explain it to me. Here's the key. I understand it.
Yep.
Okay. So just like coronavirus and numbers and listening to a reporter, I don't listen to the fucking reporter. I listen to the numbers and I listen to the statistics. Okay. So I call this guy and I go, what happened? Boom, 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 boom. And because I'm able to understand it, I know if we're in really deep trouble, if there was a major mistake made, a minor mistake made, and if we're going to be able to fix it. So I usually say, what happened? How are we going to fix it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it. There's no drama. There's no screaming. There's no pointing fingers. And that's why they respect me so much. And that's why I'm not going to say they like me so much, because they might not really like me. I don't know. I'm not there, but at least they respect me. I respect them. We have a phenomenal working relationship because there's zero bullshit involved in it. But I am able to have that level-headed and leveled respect with them. They respect me. I respect them because I know my shit.
Yeah.
I know my shit. And what is that? Listen, I always say a story. My first year in real estate was an absolute nightmare. So you got to understand I never wanted to be an astronaut or anything like that. Real estate is really what I wanted to do since high school. So weird, but it is what it is. So, I got to this business, and my first year I didn't close one deal. At that particular point, it was with Century 21. I was actually Prudential first, which was like biggest company back then, Prudential Real Estate. And then it was Century 21. So I was in both of those companies. I didn't close a deal, not one deal. I put a bunch of offers, but I didn't close any deals. So, man, this was, and the reason I mentioned it because it was so depressing. I'm like, man, maybe this is not, I'm not cut out for this. Maybe this is not for me. What the hell am I going to do now? I already told you I graduated with a 1.5, right? So what the fuck? What am I going to do now? This is not for me. Obviously, I didn't quit, and that's part of it. But so then I went to a really tiny company that didn't have an office. It was so small that it didn't have an office. So I had to call. I got a call from a mortgage. One of my buddies knew a mortgage broker named Joseph Schneiderman. I'll mention his name. Super sharp, super knowledgeable, talented. One of the most talented mortgage. I don't think he's in the business anymore, which is unfortunate. But he was such a talent. He was phenomenal. So he tells me they had a little mortgage company too, but they had empty space. So he's like, hey, Jesus, come work here with us in the office. So never forget it. He had his desk on the right over here. I had a little desk next to him. I would put some, other realtors in the office listings on the newspaper back then. No Zillow, no anything. It was newspapers. Okay, that's how old I'm getting, or how old I am. And I would get those phone calls, and I would pass it to him. He would qualify them, pass them over to me, and I started closing deals, and more deals, and more deals, and more, and that's it. I took off like a rocket ship. The only thing I was missing was that connection. The only thing I was missing is that mortgage part. That because remember, here's the key. I was putting in offers on the other one, but they weren't closing.
Right.
They weren't closing because the financing was off, and I wasn't knowledgeable enough in that to know what mistake I was making. Once that happened, so I remember thinking, when I open my real estate company, I'm gonna open a mortgage company too. Huge mistake, and it was a nightmare. But hey, I'm glad because I really understood the business. So. But the reason why I got to say this whole story is because when I opened the mortgage company, I was lost. I was basically an all right realtor kind of starting. But in order to open that, I needed to become a student of the mortgage business. I needed to understand it. So I remember I asked a friend of a friend to let me to speak to. There was a prominent mortgage company back here, a huge mortgage company here locally. And I was able to get to the president, and the president of the company, because of the person who did me the favor and connected him, was able to get me in there and sit down with the underwriter. Sit down. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to sit down with the underwriter. I wanted to see what they did. I wanted to sit the whole day with them, and I wanted to take notes. So I spent almost 3, 4, 5 days sitting down with the underwriter, sitting down with the opener, the closer, the pricing department, the processor, and understand. I studied what they did. And I remember looking at, I just want to see what a file looks like. I want to see how they stack it up and what they do and what is underwriting. Like, what is it? Like, I want to know what the hell it is. Yeah. All you guys know, the people that haven't done this is, well, some mean lady that tells you that you have more conditions, and she already told you there was the last condition, but she's giving you more conditions.
Yeah, it's a box where I submit the papers in, and they push it back and say no.
Yeah, right, pretty much. But it's not that. There's a logic behind it, and there's rules, and here's the word, guidelines.
Absolutely.
Guidelines that they follow. So why are they saying no? Because there's guidelines. What are guidelines? Every loan program has guidelines, right? So that's what they follow. That's their Bible, okay? So I needed to know that. I needed to know what the processor, what the opener, what the closer. So I spent, like I said, 3, 4, 5, I don't remember now, but it was days. It was days, all day for days, sitting there and understanding what they did, okay? So you guys want to get better during these 30, 60, whatever days, hopefully not 90 days, call your mortgage guy and tell him, hey, can I have a 15-minute phone call with an underwriter? Can you walk me through the process? What's first, second? That's another thing that I wanted to know. What comes first? What comes second? What comes third? What is the flow chart?
Yeah, sequence.
Right? What's the sequence of this? Where does it go? What happens in this whole quality control thing right before the deal closes and who they call, right? So I needed to know that. I needed to become a student of the game. If you guys take this time and you just understand what is an underwriter, what is a processor, and understand what a file looks like. If they're still working, if they're still operating, and if you could show up there with a hazmat suit and just listen to whatever it is that, and understand what they do, you will be better at the end of this. Now you're speaking to an appraiser Now you're reading some books that are going to make you better. Now you're, maybe you're changing the way you do these inspections and understanding it a little bit better. And you're understanding the financing business a lot better. If you're able to talk to your mortgage broker, talk to several mortgage brokers. What is the biggest mistake that realtors, call them up and go, hey, what's the biggest mistake that realtors make? What is it? I want to know, right?
Yeah.
I want to know. Call another one. I want to know. And pick a mortgage broker that you're going to send business. Why do my guys close? Because we send them a lot of business, right? So do they pay more attention? I'll tell them to their face. Of course, it's human nature. I send them so many deals that, you know what? It sucks a lot more to fuck up one of my deals than anybody else's. One realtor that sends one deal, hey, hopefully it closes, but we'll be all right. If it doesn't close with me, they know they got to call me and they got to explain, and I'm a nice guy about it, but hey, nobody wants to lose deals, and they got to explain to what the mistake was, and I'm going to understand it in the whole situation, but I don't want mistakes, and that's the relationship. So that whole thing about jumping around here, you want to make it better, you want to eliminate issues with mortgage brokers, pick one. Pick one mortgage broker, one guy, maybe two, maybe one English speaker. We're in Miami, so an English speaker, a Spanish speaker, or whatever. But pick the same guys that you're going to do business with on a regular basis, because those people are going to appreciate your business a lot more than you're the one-off. And when you show up with a buyer, and a buyer shows up and they have a random mortgage broker, you better train yourself. We're going back to number one again. Prepare yourself to be able to convince that person and influence that person into understanding that it's way better for them to go with your guy. Okay, as long as the deal's the same in the whole situation, because there is this relationship, because you could trust what that person says, because they're not going to lie to you. Because when something happens, they're gonna, like I say, not if, but when something happens with the deal, you're going to be able to call that mortgage broker and you're going to be like, hey, mortgage broker, what's going on? And they're going to tell you the truth. If it's somebody who you don't know, they're going to bullshit you enough to buy themselves some time to fix the issue.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to have wrong information, which is going to make you make wrong decisions.
And worse than that even is you give the wrong information to your customer, repeating what they said to your customer, and then that turns out to not be so, and it comes back to bite you. It hurts your relationship with your customer. My father was a very successful businessman, and he used to say to me all the time, if you want to be great at your business, know what comes before and what comes after what you do. And I found in this business especially, knowing what the mortgage broker does, know what the title company does, know how you can give them the stuff in a way that's most helpful and meaningful to them. Because what I'm trying to be for them is the person whose deal they want to get done. Again, they're in a human job. They see it's me. They see my title company, my mortgage broker sees it's me. They know I'm always nice to them on the phone. They know I'm always grateful for everything that they do for me. Right. So they know they have a different reaction and interaction with me than somebody else. Does it take and make every deal I do with them close? No, but it makes more of my deals close. And it's all about trying to get as many of the deals that we're working hard to get in there actually closed.
Right. And same thing with the title company. I've been using the same title company since 2005.
That's 15 years.
It's 15 years, right? Maybe 2006, but I'm pretty sure it's 5.
Let's go 15. It's a nicer number.
Good. It sounds it's rounded off a little bit, right? So again, when they already know what I want, right? They already know how I want it. Okay, I know what they want. I know how they want it. Okay, I have an attorney there, which is coincidentally in this particular case my attorney also. It started that way. They started as my title company. Actually, it's kind of both, really. But that being said, when there's an issue, I had an issue just 2 days ago. Called them, and I said, hey, man, I need you to resolve this issue with one of my realtors. Issue was resolved. They jump on it. Yeah, they're nice guys and they're nice girls, but it's really because we have a successful business relationship, and we protect it and we professionally handle it. If we make a mistake, if I make a mistake, I own up to it and I fix it. If they make a mistake, they own up to it and they fix it. And we've had that 15-year successful, thousands of deals closed because of that. Okay. So have I sat there in their office and have I learned their process and understood it? Absolutely. Actually, in that particular case, have I forgotten it? Yeah, I have forgotten it. I'm not a big title guy. But because maybe it's because they're so damn good.
Yeah, no,
that
it
I didn't
definitely
have,
takes the pressure off.
I didn't have to. I never really had to learn it. And now that I think about it, I probably should take the opportunity and learn a little bit more on it. But and again, guys, I've been doing this 20 plus years, and look what I just said. I'm gonna go take this.
Sure.
I'm having this podcast, and I'm gonna take my own advice, and I'm gonna learn more about title. I'm gonna go sit down, and I'm gonna realize it. I'm gonna realize that, hey, you know what? Since they've been so good, I haven't had a reason to learn it, and I'm going to go learn it. Okay.
And what makes them so good? Absolutely.
Right. So, but there was a point at the beginning where I did sit down and I did walk myself through it, and I did. I had 1 month that it was like about 90 deals that I had to close with them. Aside from my other business, I did some. It was a condo conversion or something. I had like 90 deals that I had to close with them in that month, and I literally had to go work there for a couple of weeks. You know, so in that particular case, I really learned it, and I understood it. But again, since if you don't exercise it, you know, see on the mortgage thing, there's always issues and stuff that I'm not because the mortgage guys are not good. It's just because it's more of an issue. It's more of an issue intensive.
It's the nature of it.
It's the nature of it, man. There's just stuff happening all the time, no matter what. So, you know, I've been forced to refresh my memory on a regular basis. Loan programs change on a regular basis, so you got to keep up to date. So you want to know another thing you could talk to your mortgage broker about? Understand the loan programs. Do you know the difference between an FHA and a conventional? Between a VA or a bank statement program? Do you understand debt to income ratios? Do you understand the difference between why somebody would rather go with an FHA than a conventional? Probably because of the credit score. You're allowed a lower credit score. You're allowed more debt
Sure.
to income. You know, the ratio, you're allowed to have more debt in the debt to income ratio. Those are the stuff. So do you know that? Or do you just say, oh, let's go FHA? Do you really understand why people have to go FHA, or should it go FHA? That's not just the down payment, guys. There's down payment. There's conventional deals that have the same down payment.
Lower, 3% versus 3.5%.
Right. But you don't go with it because they don't have the same debt to income ratio type stuff. So
Absolutely.
do you really, really understand what an FHA is? Do you really understand conventional? Do you really understand FHA in condominiums? Conventional condominiums, what's the restriction on going FHA, and what's the restriction on going conventional? Do you know what a condo questionnaire is? Do you know that that's the biggest deal killer in financing for condominiums? It's a condo questionnaire. Have you read a fucking condo questionnaire? Have you sat down and actually read? Go pick 3 condo deals and read the condo questionnaire. What does it ask? Why is that such a deal killer? Do you know that? Because I know it, right? I know it. I know it because I had to teach it to my realtors. Right. So if you want to, here's another thing. Hey, read another homework. Read a condo questionnaire.
Sure.
Understand the condominiums. Read all the guidelines. Understand the financing. What's different?
And I would say I want to put one more out there when it comes to financing. Know where to get your investors' money, because especially coming into the time that we are, what it's looking like
I'm gonna get a
coming out
water.
of
I'm
coronavirus.
listening to you.
What we need to figure out. I'm good. We need to have sources of money available for our investors to borrow. We need to know, hey, it's this kind of property, and this is the lender that can get us money on this, and this is the kind of down payment they're going to require. They're going to give us, 70% LTV or 60% LTV or 85% LTV, depending upon what it is. Understanding the investment side of the business. I know for me, I got much better at this business when I started to really understand the investment side of the business. Going to CCIM, taking and really getting my head wrapped around about how investment real estate works. People think, oh, you're a commercial agent, then you got to be commercial. No, it makes you better at all aspects of the business. You understand the product much, much better. And I don't think there's any reason to be in a car with somebody driving around, showing them property without planting the seeds to turn that person into a real estate investor, even if they're looking for a home to live in for themselves. You need to take and be able to talk about your product in such a way that they're compelled to say, gee, you know what? We need to get an investment property as quickly as we can. That sounds like something we should have as part of our plan to retire, part of our financial plan going forward.
Right. And so go to YouTube. Again, I want everything with homework. Right. So that's a phenomenal point. How do you turn a person into an investor? You explain it to them.
Absolutely.
Okay? So go on YouTube. Either go to one of Cadillac's. When's your next class for the investment class? Well, who knows now?
Who knows?
Right. I just answered my own question. So go on YouTube and say to yourself, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to watch videos on how to analyze. I guarantee you put it in there, go analyzing investment real estate properties or real estate investment properties, right? I guarantee you're going to have more than enough videos to watch. Is one of them going to change your life? Maybe, probably not. But all of them together will.
Sure.
So the next time you're at least able to bullshit your way through it. And guess what happens when you bullshit your way through 10 different, the same thing 10 different times? You're no longer bullshitting.
Yep.
You know, well, a buddy of mine that said the other day, well, I read somewhere that you shouldn't make it, shake it. What is it? What's that saying again? Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. You shouldn't be faking anything until you make it. And everything. I'm like, listen, let me tell you something. Whatever moron told you that you shouldn't fake it till you make it, he was born rich, got into this business rich, because anybody who had to start in this had to fake the shit out of it until you make it. I'm sorry. You need to. It's almost like I remember it almost like acting. I was acting like a successful realtor. I was acting like I would look at those guys and be like, all right, I'm gonna act like that, until I became one of those guys, So yeah, whoever told this, I'm gonna call my friend a moron, and he's gonna listen to this, and he's gonna know exactly who he is. And I already told him that whoever told him that was also a moron, or was inherited millions of dollars and didn't have to fake it, because that's complete bullshit.
Or born and died broke, one or the other.
Right.
Either
way, that's
the
wrong.
reality of it is, when you come in, the licensure test, what they teach you in FREC 1 and FREC 2, the pre and post license, is not the actual practice of real estate. In fact, like you said, going back now and looking at the evaluation portion, the appraisal portion, would be really helpful, because once you've been in the business a year or two, that's when you need that information. That's when you have enough context of how this works to say, oh, wow, this makes a lot of sense, as opposed to, here it is. It's like teaching a kid in kindergarten calculus.
Well, I'm going to the title thing. Also, title. Right, go back and the title theory state and the lien state. Refresh your memory on that. Understand it. Go back right now. You're at home, locked up. If you're a mom, as soon as you finish with the kids, decompress. I went home the other day, dude. I went home for lunch, and it was a war zone in there, dude. Kids were fighting. My wife's freaking out. She's pulling out her hairs. I'm like, I am out of here. I was going to hang out for a little bit. I'm like, I am out of here. So moms, I get it. Listen, I really do get it. It is, I am sorry. You guys are I'm not going to say the real casualties, but obviously there's people dying. I can't even joke around here, because, I'm worried about that. But you guys are also casualties here, because you guys what these moms are having to put up with, they went from being moms to teachers. And you know what? The other ones I have are teachers that are also moms, are having to teach a class and teach their kids at the same time. They have to be a mom and a teacher. Man, teachers with kids in school right now, man, those are also casualties of this coronavirus. So,
casualties of war. No, I hear you.
So what else? We covered everything pretty much, right?
We've covered everything pretty much.
Yeah. So guys, in summary here, you could take this, and look, I don't want to call anybody who's home less courageous or anything like that. All right. My gut tells me to do that, but it's not right. There's people that are home for a certain reason. There's people that, might, be a lot more afraid of this than normal, might have some kind of, situation where it makes it more, I guess, possible or I don't know.
Increased likelihood.
Increased likelihood. Okay. That you should stay home. But for those that are home or could get out and go to a park and sit and read a book, or while you're doing cardio, listen to some audiobooks and go on YouTube at night and make yourself better in these points. We gave you plenty of homework here. Plenty of homework. I think one of the best ones that I said was pay $100 to an appraiser for his time and sit there and get that information. If you could do these things, guys. Now, another thing, if you decide, and this is where I was going before, if you decide to say, all right, you know what, dude, I am real estate agents have been allowed to continue to work. We've been considered, essential. You're allowed to show properties virtually. You're allowed to go work. Maybe you're not allowed to go hold open houses. Maybe you're not allowed to join, and have, showings with a ton of people out there. You got to have your social distancing. But if you're able to follow these guidelines and you're able to show properties, understand that whatever marketing you do right now and somebody calls you, that person really wants a house.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's another thing. So what I am proposing is that potentially let's just pretend for a second, okay, that I'm making some kind of sense here, okay? Let's just give it a shot for 48 hours. Put some marketing out there. whoever calls you, understand that not only are they way more interested than most people because they're out there searching, so they might need a house. They might need to move out because their lease is out, and and that's probably why we stayed essentials, because if your lease is about to end and you need to move, or you have gotten transferred in a job and you need to move, somebody needs to sell you that house. Okay, so if that's the case, and you could also understand that you have a lot less competition out there, right? There's a lot less realtors working right now. There's a lot less traffic. There's kids are in school, all kinds of stuff. Okay. And now you also have a market that might be, I'm not going to use the word desperate, but a lot more inclined to receiving a lower offer.
Yes.
Right. So now out of 10 houses, out of 10 sellers, there might be 3 of them that are 100% convinced the world's about to end.
Absolutely. Stockpiling and ammunition.
They are going insane, and they need to sell this property extremely quickly so they could put that money in a box or buy gold.
Well, to finish the bomb shelter behind the house.
Absolutely. They're going to, so they could get the down payment for their new bomb shelter. And that might be the person that your client, that might be the house that your client really, really wants. That client that you put for the marketing, the client that you don't have to fight 1,000 realtors for. All right. So just analyze that part. Analyze the logic behind it. Okay. Analyze the fact of your statistic danger in working, these deals. Okay. Also understand that this might be the opportunity to make some real money right now, to be the person that's out there working this deal. I'm not asking anybody to put themselves in danger. If you really think this is dangerous, don't do it, okay? But understand another thing. There's a very high probability, not possibility, probability that this is going to be a V-shaped recovery, okay? What does V-shape mean? Goes down and it goes up, just like a V, all right? What does that mean? That if in 2 weeks, potentially, maybe, hey guys, maybe I don't know shit. Maybe I shouldn't even be talking, okay? Maybe I am such a moron that you guys should just turn this shit off and never listen to me again. But maybe I'm not, okay? So if this is a V-shaped recovery and in 2 weeks, news start coming out. Hey, it's already starting to come out.
It's already starting to come out.
Well, it's starting to come out saying the numbers are a lot lower than expected.
Yeah, they already adjusted from 96,000 down to 82,000 the other day.
And they're already starting to prepare. Hey guys, maybe this was a little exaggerated the way we brought it out. We can't compare ourselves to Italy. We can't compare ourselves to China. We're a different animal, the whole situation. So potentially, let's say, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm seeing this completely crazy. Okay, fine. Okay. But if in about 2 weeks, the news start coming out, wait a second, guys. We might have miscalculated this. We're okay. We got this under control. Stock market is already starting to go up, but it goes even more up.
Sure.
Restaurants are open again. That was a real fat guy. Oh boy.
Fat kid sitting over here.
See, I'm a drinker, so I just want to sit at a bar. All right. Like, I just want to sit at a bar. I want to get there hungry.
I want to go to a gym, man. I've been having to go running. This is brutal.
Listen, that is number 5 on my priority list. All right. The gym. I'm talking about, I want to sit down there. I want to pour myself a single malt whiskey at a bar. Okay. I want to go there real thirsty and real hungry. And I want to feel the cold drink just going down my esophagus.
Understood.
All right. That's what I'm going for. But hypothetically speaking, if I am maybe just making a little bit of sense here, and this shit in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, everything opens back up again. Okay. You might potentially look back at this time and say, like, holy shit, I didn't take advantage of this.
I lost this.
I lost this once in a lifetime opportunity to get myself better.
Hopefully once in a lifetime. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. Good point. Probably. I don't think we're going to go in. I think we'll learn lessons from this that probably won't shut down the whole damn country. Okay?
Find a better way to do this.
It can't happen every year. Just can't.
No.
So potentially you're going to look back and you're going to be like, all right, man, this is a 30, 45, 60 day time to spend some time with my family. Okay. By the way, I taught my daughter how to ride bike We were always so busy. My son plays a sport. My daughter plays a sport. We're between practices and work, and we get home late and everything. And I realized, holy shit, she just doesn't know how to ride a bike. So I taught her to ride a bike. It was awesome, and I'm spending time with her. It's great. That too. Okay, take the time and spend. Hey, spend the time with the family and everything.
Remember what's important.
Remember what's important. Okay, you're alive. You're here. You're safe. Everything's good. And make yourself better. Make yourself better. And if you have some leads, right? Let's say you buy leads, and let's say you have some leads that have been around that you haven't really paid attention to, that came in a year ago, or came in December, or came in something. Let's call them up.
Say hello.
Say hello. How you doing? Is everything okay? And you're gonna be able to feel if they're in a bunker or they're like, this is bullshit, I'm dying to get out.
Absolutely.
And hey, by the way, do you know anybody? Are you or anybody that you know thinking about buying real estate? If you haven't been able to have a chance to update your CRM, go in there and update your fucking CRM. We should put that number 6.
Yeah.
Deal killers. You know why it's a deal killer? Because the deal never started. It's dying in the fetus stage, an embryo.
Yeah.
If you're not organized, that deal's never starting. So go back and organize your CRM.
Absolutely. Clear up your inbox. Clean up your CRM.
Tough one.
Well, look, it's one of those things that once it's done, it's just a matter of maintenance. It's just a matter of maintenance. It's like, when you have to lose a bunch of weight. I've had to do that in different times in my life.
Tough.
And yeah, it's tough. But once you get down,
Yeah, it's worth
and then it's just maintenance.
Yeah.
Then you can eat a hot dog every once in a while.
Yeah.
And it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's good. And so, set yourself up coming out of this. You have a chance to assess your business. And I mean, if we're going to leave with anything, I think that's really the place to leave with. Stay hungry. Look at your business. Assess it. Where are the places where you're not organized, where it's not clean, where it's not crisp? That business is a reflection of you. And so take it personal, Take a look at your inbox. Take a look at your CRM. Take a look at everything and say, hey, does this reflect the kind of business that I want to run? And if it's not the way you want it right now, take the time and fix it and make it great. Come out of this with something better so you can sit there and say, hey, life gave me lemons and I made some kick-ass, in your case, I'm sure, spiked lemonade.
Damn right. Yeah, and I'm gonna one last thing here. If we're gonna include the CRM with the gym talk, right? One example I always give with the CRMs, right? The CRMs, we have a CRM here at the office, and I recommend, I know you like
one page
CRM. We use Conversion here, right? There's a million of them, right?
Yep.
But one thing I get all the time is like, well, Jesus, I purchased a CRM and it doesn't work for me. That's like buying a badass treadmill with all the bells and whistles. It has the fucking TV. It has the for the YouTube. It has the Bluetooth for your ear pods or whatever the hell.
Little robotic arm that wipes the sweat from your forehead.
It has all the fans just in case you're getting a little too hot. Incline, decline. It has everything, right? So you paid $10,000 for this thing, and then you're gonna say this thing doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't get your fat ass, are we supposed to say that now because it's a body shaming or no?
Let's go with it.
Okay.
I talk about my own fat ass all the time.
I talk about my fat ass too. Well, I tell you what, I'm a fat ass, but I don't blame my fucking treadmill for it.
No,
I just don't. I blame myself for it.
I blame the 3 hot dogs I made myself last night for dinner.
Exactly. So, so I hear that all the time. Oh, that doesn't work. Dude, if you don't get yourself on that treadmill, it doesn't matter how amazing that treadmill is. You got to get on it and you got to work it. So right now, look at that CRM like that treadmill. Go in there, make the adjustments, put the information. If you have people written down, go back 6 months, call leads, spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day calling old leads and reintroducing yourself, putting them in the CRM and activating them. Guys, this is I sincerely think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to organize yourselves and just really take off. Really take off.
Absolutely.
Like make this the day that you're like, how these New Year's resolutions type of stuff where you're like, all right, well, and you hear it all the time, man, there was that day and I just got fed up with it and that's it. And those are the days that today's the day. And my life was never the same after that day. Make this coronavirus thing, which is a negative, make it a positive. Say, hey, man, I've been kicking ass since coronavirus because I really sat down and I really adjusted. I meditated. I've read books. I've taken the advice. I listened to the most amazing podcast in the world.
And then us afterwards.
and then us right after, So yeah, man, I'll leave you with that, guys. I am absolutely going to take my own advice. You want anything else, Cadillac?
I think that just to kind of summarize what you just said, today is the first day of the rest of your life.
There you go.
And
Good way to
so,
put it.
really take that into account and make tomorrow a better day and the day after a better day and so on. With a CRM, the answer is easy. What is the best CRM? The one you use.
Yeah.
The one that you will actually use.
And I'll tell you what, it's not. It's never write the shit by hand on a notepad.
Oh my God, no.
Please.
No.
I don't care how old school you are. If you want to go, listen, the conversion is a very complex CRM that we use, right? The one-page CRM is very stripped down. It's literally one page.
Yeah. Stripped down.
If you can't do that one, if you can't function with one-page CRM, call the DBPR or call whatever local real estate department and hand over your real estate license.
No, you shouldn't be handling transactions.
You shouldn't be handling transactions. You just shouldn't. So, all right. So hopefully we were recording everything. That would suck. All right, guys. I will hopefully talk to you again next week. All right. Thanks.